Welcome to Paddock Underdogs. Coming up, of this year in review. We've catch us halfway through the season at Brands Hatch, and as you see in this race, we're on round 8 of the BRSCC MX-5 Clubman Championship. We are kind of mid-pack at the moment, so sort of position 17 out of 30. You've got Kev Bird looking to try and find a way past at turn 1, and there's no way through there. We're going to cover off the inside line, and up ahead you can kind of see contact, and we're having to take avoiding action. Kev takes the inside line, we take the outside line, and Kev ends up with that position. And then you've got Graham Rumsey coming up behind us as well. Generally speaking, Brands Hatch has been a pretty good circuit for us. You can see kind of right in the middle of the pack, 16th out of 30. Well, actually, you can see 2 more positions here to be gained, 2 in the gravel. So 14th out of 30, one of the best positions of the year actually. So started 14th, finished 14th, a pretty good time out at Brands Hatch. Next up in the season was Cadwell Park, and as you see our tow vehicle was being recovered on the Friday, and then also in qualifying this happened as well, which, as you can see, straight into the tyre barrier, no runoff at all at Cadwell Park. But the paddock was extremely quick to kind of help us out. There was a red flag in the session, and it's not just my team helping out there, it's the other team as well. So we got back out onto the circuit and actually didn't qualify too badly down at position 17, despite that issue in qualifying. So not a great weekend actually, Cadwell, for us, as before it even all kicked off. But it did show that the paddock is there to help out, and you can see at the start of this race there's contact behind us. Definitely a worse day for other people. I think everyone managed to keep on going after that, but it did actually help our position. You can see Cadwell is a really tight, twisty circuit. It's absolutely iconic. I do love driving it as a single driver, as it were, but it can be quite difficult at times. So you can see the race is a bit of a war of attrition at Cadwell Park, so if you keep it out of trouble you can definitely make up places. Apparently Top Gear was filming here, so if you haven't seen that, maybe go over to BBC and see that. Apparently there are some people either in this race or in the championship race, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't seen the episode, maybe I need to go and see it. But here we talking about keeping it out of trouble, we make a pretty terrible mistake here. We go for the overtake, we're definitely catching on Jamie Turner here, but we're way too far back, tried to back out a bit, lock up, go into the side of Jamie, onto the grass. Jamie ends up spinning round, and we end up getting a deserved penalty as a result of that, and that was unfortunately the start of things to come for the remainder of this season. The rest of this race turned out to be quite eventful. With the last lap, the rain just came out absolute nowhere. I'd never driven on this circuit in the rain, so trying to learn to where the braking points are, where the turning points are, where the grip is, where the grip isn't, in the middle of at the last lap of a race, was pretty all-consuming, with a wounded car as well, because we had actually picked up some damage, and you can hear it as you go around this corner. We have picked up some damage, and it looks like we go up into 5th rather than 3rd for this last corner. That's enough to let, I think that's Tim Storer going through. We do finish 18th, and we're finished 17th across the line, and we lose a place for the penalties. Not the best weekend out at Cadwell so far, but going into race 2, you can see here we're right in the middle of the pack through the mountain section. There's a car, that's Graham Rumsey facing the other direction. We take to the grass, and I think all cars managed to make it through. And there was a penalty applied for that incident as well. Quite a few penalties being handed out in the championship at this point of the season. and yeah, it's a bit of a heart-stopping moment, but we all make it through. It's an iconic racetrack, as I've said already. Really great track to go, and especially if maybe it's not your first time taking a track day there. The barriers are quite close though, so it is quite easy to run out wide and hit the barriers. In race 2 though, we're trying to keep it clean, not trying to avoid a repeat of last time. Actually, we've got Jamie Turner behind us. You can see Rob Greensmith up ahead in car 122, and I think he's battling, I think that's Tim Storer, I'm not sure, I haven't seen the number on the side of the car, but they're side by side through the gooseneck. Just about, I think there's a bit of rubbing there, but I think just about giving each other room. Rob locking up into this corner down and the hairpin, in so doing of concentrating up ahead. You can definitely see Jamie Turner's got alongside us, and he's going to go side by side up into the mountain section, and I think we do end up losing, we lock up, but we do end up losing the position, but we're still sort of 16th position, which is kind of respectable. You can see from the campsite how close the spectators could get. It's a really good circuit for both spectators and drivers, I think. But the racing can be a bit difficult just because of the width of the circuit, really. Going through the mountain section is always a thrill, so worth going, even if he ended up finishing that race at 14th, I'd say keeping it clean. Actually, you can pick up quite a few positions. Got to Donington Park, and the race is already underway, actually. We qualified to the big pack again, so 19th out of 35 runners, a really big pack at Donington Park. You can see sort of 4 abreast, 4 Mazdas going into one corner. It's not going to work. We kind of still get 3 wide round the corner. Cars locking up, and there's cars that's Tom Storer again, spinning behind us if you sort of scroll back and look at that. And side by side here with, I think that's Jake Stiles in car 2 through the Craner curves. We're going to have the inside line for the old hairpin. It does look like we're going to retain the position. We have lost a couple from that start. A bit of a frantic start at Donington. It's probably the circuit maybe I've got most experience at. It's one of our closest to us, so we have gone over to Donington a bit more often. You can see Russell handing up ahead, fighting and kind of proving that in a Mazda race, if you end up fighting for position, you end up losing time, and the car behind can often catch up. So he got a much better exit out of the old hairpin. So he caught up very, loads of time through that, and we're going to probably get the position. We are down in 21st, so we've lost a few positions from our starting place, but we are making the position back. And as you can see, from attack to defence, Russell loses maybe a couple of places through there. So we did start 19th and finished 20th in that race. Some good racing if you go and have a look at the full race. But going into race 2, this is where it all started to go wrong a bit. So we're on lap 1, towards the end of the lap, and you can see a puzzle-coloured car of Alan Hawkins going down the inside. And you can see we're now kind of blind on the inside, as in the braking point is. So Jake Stiles there in car number 2, we're side by side, mess up the braking entirely, lock up both wheels straight back into the side of Alan, who just passed us, end up facing the other direction. You can see shaking their head, that's a shake of their head at what sort of disapproval of my own action. Really disappointed in myself. It was and we actually ended up getting disqualified for that piece of driving, and rightly so. Really bad, but yeah, just missed the braking point, ended up locking up both wheels. I guess the advantage of that though is that we get to see quite a few overtakes, because we're right at the back of the field now. As we sort of make our way through, we haven't really done this so far in the season, so all the sort of mistakes we've made have been sort of later on in the race. We've lost maybe a position or two, but we haven't been right to the back before, so we're having to make our way up through the field. I don't know yet, obviously, that I'll be disqualified, so it's worth trying to get as many positions as possible. Probably more overtakes in this race than many of the others already put together. I'm not sure, I haven't really counted them, but there's sort of at least half a dozen in this race. So we're back up to 28th, kind of halfway through the race now. They are quite short 15-minute races, so if you do lose time at the beginning, it's difficult sometimes to catch back up to where you were. and you can see here going down the inside into the chicane, we're using the Grand Prix circuit, so the national circuit kind of goes right here, the Grand Prix circuit goes left. So yet another position gained, and it kind of proves that maybe I can drive and overtake cleanly, because there's been two in the last couple of races, two sort of quite poor overtakes, that wasn't really an overtake, it was just a mistake, but some quite poor driving that resulted in contact. But at least there's been sort of about 8 overtakes there. Last round of the season. Now we're at Snetterton. Got on board Russell in the car in front, so you can go and see his channel for the full race. But we have got an onboard from him, so if you go and see the race, we've got a bit more on that. This is our onboard looking backwards. We had a really poor start, so he went into second gear like way too early. Got sandwiched a bit because we ended up going so slowly. We ended up falling back into the clutches of other drivers, so we ended up getting sandwiched, but not very much contact. It's good trying to avoid contact. The main aim of this race was to avoid contact, especially after the last couple of races. The penalty points on the racing licence are sort of stacking up a bit. So in this race, just aiming to keep it out of trouble. We're not too bad in position 20 at the moment. We made up quite a few from our quite poor qualifying actually. For us this season we've been doing much better, and you can see here this is the very last lap of race 1, the very last couple of corners. You can see I'm following Russell very, very closely. This is on board with Russell, about back to my view. We're going through the very last corner, and then we're going to get a good exit if we're going to stand the chance of getting this position. And you can see actually we have got taken much more speed through the corner. We're going to catch up. It's going to be very, very close over the line. Got a jink left to come out from the slipstream, and going to be alongside as we go over the line, just winning the car over the line, and over the line with 0.05 seconds between the two cars. We do gain that position, and therefore start up in position 19 in the next race. And you can see it's quite a frantic state. It's very late in the day, because obviously this is the last race of the season. It's getting towards the end of the year now, so where in summer they've had several hours of daylight left. We're very much close to sunset. It made it quite difficult to see actually. You'll see later on in the race, got cars off on the grass in race 1. You'll see it's quite difficult to see at some points of the racetrack. The very, very low sun, the sun shield, the sort of downforce radio sponsored sun shield is not keeping out the sun when it's this low in the sky. There's a bit of contact there from Chris Thelwell in car 577 as we went out from that corner, but pretty sure that wasn't my fault, so I think we can call it a victory. You can see here that I think that was JP Turner halfway across the road on the exit of a very fast left-hander. And going back to the replay for this, I think this is, it was probably he's probably slightly before the racing moment. When you come around the corner at the speed you're doing here, about 70, 80 or something, you don't really have time to realise he's just a bit. You can see where the curbs start there, but it just felt like you were going to drift into the side of him, so it's quite a nerve-wracking moment, that bit of the racing. And you can see the last couple of laps I had sort of a desperate defence from Michael Pearce, I think in 70, and Rob Greensmith in car 122. Unfortunately we don't actually end up being able to defend, but you can see how the sun is extremely low in the sky, and that sun shield doing absolutely nothing to stop the sun getting into your eyes. Quite late in the day, I think it's one of the last races of the season, last race of the day. You can see actually getting quite close to Michael, and the dog says goodbye. Thank you for watching this Radical Underdogs season summary. I hope you'll be able to watch us next year. Over the winter we've got a couple of things planned, including a respray of the car.